Let's go Russians.
It's different, that's good. They were ordinances. Oh, we're ready.
Okay. All right, I'll call this public hearing to order at 6:01. If you could, everybody rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, so the public hearing, there's actually three items for the public hearing. Two of them are mandated. And the third one we're doing just because we're here. The first two are the land use ordinance changes and the shoreland zoning ordinance changes. And those public hearing is mandated by that. And I'll start out and give a brief introduction, and then we'll open it up to anybody who wants to speak for, against, or neither for nor against. So the reason we're doing changes to both the land use ordinance and the shoreland zone ordinance at this time is because the state of Maine came out with actually three separate laws that have mandated that we allow in our ordinances additional density on our properties and to allow primarily for affordable housing, but also it also included additional housing, dwelling units, and accessory dwelling units. So it's three different categories that the laws are mandating. I think there's copies of what the changes are to the land use ordinance, and I'll briefly cover them. The only thing we did with the shoreland zone is we took what was required. We initially, to be frank, we initially thought that the shoreland zone was excluded from the laws because in the laws it said all of the setbacks and minimum lot sizes and shoreline restrictions in the shoreland still apply to these new requirements. But it didn't actually exempt them. It makes them almost moot. We still have to include it in the land use ordinance. I mean, in the shoreline zone ordinance. But the reality is none of it is applicable because you can't get it in the you can't use it in the shoreline zone. You don't have enough land to do, right?
Well, 250 feet from the water, somebody could have quite a substantial lot there and absolutely be able to put in.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
You're right, within the 75 feet, it's a moot point.
Right. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, John Snow, and he used to be CEO. He's on the ordinance review committee with me. And he's the one that pointed out that maybe we should have included it in the land use ordinance. So we caught it just in time. So I'll briefly go through what the state is requiring. Okay, they have mandated that we allow the development of affordable housing, accessory dwelling units, and additional dwelling units. Specifically to increase affordable housing and to require municipalities to increase density to allow additional housing for affordable housing, as well as additional dwelling units on the property. If you remember in the past, you had 1 acre of land in most places. We allowed you to do what we called a mother-in-law dwelling unit. That was an additional dwelling unit. And now it's mandated that you do that. We had done it as a town, and now it's required. But it also applies to places where we only require half an acre for a residential unit. And so now you are also allowed to put an additional dwelling unit on half an acre. And it also defined accessory dwelling units, which is slightly different than an additional dwelling unit. Additional dwelling unit can be the exact same size as the original dwelling unit. It doesn't have to be subservient to the original dwelling unit, but an accessory dwelling unit has to be diminutive of the primary residence dwelling. And I'd also like to point out that our comprehensive plan has identified affordable housing as something that the town wants to develop. So this law, although it is mandated and it's kind of stretching the town's ordinances to make it fit, it does fall in line with the objectives that our comprehensive plan laid out all those 10-something years ago. Let's say that to John because he knows the exact date. So, but on the other side of that, our comprehensive plan also identifies the fact that we want to keep our rural nature, our eco-friendly kind of town, and we want to keep the fact that we've got lots of space and lots of beautiful landscape. And so if you think about it, those two desires kind of go against each other. Because if we're putting more houses on a lot, then we're decreasing the amount of green open space that we have. And so our objective, as we wrote into our land use ordinance, these restrictions and permissions, was to try to balance those. And in the long run, between the ordinance review committee, the planning board, and our legal representative who did all the writing of it, because it's some of the nuances between additional dwelling units, accessory dwelling units, and affordable housing are kind of sticky, legal wise, and it's better to have lawyers write that. The state did allow us some funding to pay for the lawyer to do that, but so in the long run, our objective was to keep it for us to comply with the letter of the law, and in most cases, the intent of the law. Although there is some very specific intention out of the law that leads towns, recommends that towns do things to ensure that we are complying with the intent of increasing affordable housing. Very specifically, they want towns to regulate in some way rental properties.
Short-term rental.
Yeah, primarily short-term. And we as a town, the last time we had a public meeting on this issue, we pretty much decided that we were not going to regulate or even register short-term rentals. A lot of towns right now are doing that. And the reason they're doing that is to comply with the portion of the law that says you need to show your intent to comply with the intent of the law. Which makes it hard if you don't have something concrete you're doing to demonstrate that you are trying to get to the affordable housing goals that they're setting up. The easy way to do that would have been to register all the short-term rentals in the town. We are, on the other side of that, we are recommending, the planning board and the ordinance review committee is recommending people voluntarily notify the town of any short-term rentals that they're listing out there. But we're not mandating. So that pretty much covers what we're doing because of the law. So we're doing that both in the land use ordinance and in the shoreline zone ordinance. Because we are in the process of making changes to those documents, we're also doing a few other things to clean up, primarily the land use ordinance. One of the issues that the select board had is that we currently have several things that the CEO writes permits for. Not all of those are specifically identified in the land use ordinances as requiring a permit. So those things that we want the CEO to write permits on, we're now including in the new land use ordinance. And it's things like demolition and swimming pools, I think, are the primary two things that are being added to the land use ordinance as requiring permits. Most of the other things, the only other thing we were doing permits on is fences. And we have decided to do away with permitting of fences at all. The other cleanup was, there's a place in our land use ordinance currently that has this appendage that says tourist homes. It's not defined. We don't use it. It doesn't distinguish from anything. We have no clue where it came from, how long it's been in there. So we're now deleting the word tourist home. The other thing in the land use ordinance, it currently has two paragraphs that talk about non-conforming lots in the land use. If you go to the shoreland zone, there's 2 pages that describe the restrictions on a non-conforming lot. And so we're now making them consistent. Unfortunately, that means the 2 pages that are in the shoreline zone are now in the land use zone, explaining what non-conforming is and what you have to do to get out of non-conforming. Currently, we have a requirement that came about the last time we did a change to the land use ordinance. We included that you could do commercial in the village area, or maybe it's V2 village. No, V2 area, where we said you can do commercial, but it can't be greater than 10,000 square feet. We never really identified what that meant. And so the new ordinance says the planning board will identify when they do the permit exactly what that 10,000 square feet covers. And then the other thing is that because of these changes that are required, in a couple of places, it says that you can do off-street parking, and in other places, it says you can't mandate off-street parking. So we currently don't have for residential units any restriction. If you build a house, we don't require you to have off-street parking for that residence. And so now we're changing it so that you do, if you build a house, you've got to have room for 2 off-street parking. And if you put in an additional dwelling unit, you have to make room for a 3rd additional off-street parking. So that is in summary, in great detail, more detail than we probably want. So now I'll open it up to the floor for anybody who would like to speak for the changes to the ordinances. Anybody who would like to speak against the changes to the ordinance?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is how does this help affordable housing? There's no requirement that any of it be affordable,
Could
is
you
there?
speak up?
I asked, how does this help affordable housing?
Oh, it
You're not
does.
gonna get it. It's not
What's-
gonna happen, so it's just, the construction costs are too expensive. In reality, it's not good.
So it's
I agree
not
with
going
you.
to- Yeah,
Well, it's the cost of building is too much. So it's going to be like an 800 square foot house, 865 foot square house will probably be, a couple $100,000 if you use $300 a square foot for a house. You know what I mean? So it's in there, but it's not really what you think. It's in the law, but it's not. We're doing it, but the cost is so high now. It's not going to be. They're not going to be. You're not going to be able to get a house for $600 a month or something like that. What's probably going to be more the going rate for rents and stuff. Nothing will really change.
And the other part of it is that we have, because our comprehensive plan and our land use ordinance had identified an area in our town where we were planning for additional growth, a growth area. It's called the village extension areas. And you're allowed to, the size of your lot for the first residential house is only a half an acre in that area. And so because we have that area designated for growth, we can limit the affordable housing development to that area. So affordable housing is designated, it allows you to build more houses, more dwelling units on a property. But then you have to, for 30 years, you have to list it as affordable, and you can only rent it or sell it at the affordable housing rate. Yes.
And what is that rate, or how is it calculated, and is it universal?
It
Is it the same number all over Maine?
It is the same number all over Maine. Yeah, it's based on Maine's income, and it's 80% of. I'm not even sure what the number is. They've got it in here.
That's 80% of the poverty level.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. Yep,
Median income.
medium income.
Median.
Moyle?
How does it affect septic and wells when you're having multi-units on a small lot?
Now that is the saving grace on the impact on our environment, is that they still are required to meet the state requirements for septic systems. And for any of you who are aware of it right now, it's one of the reasons that in the shoreland zone, it's almost impossible to do this, because in the shoreland zone, you need 40,000 square feet per dwelling unit for a septic system, which is pretty close to an acre of land anyway. Outside of the shoreline zone, you need 20,000 square feet. Now, that's the current state law. And there are some exceptions to it that can be made if you have a designed, engineered, special kind of septic system, which I don't foresee anybody putting in here. Maybe somebody in Portland or Augusta might do that, but I can't imagine doing it here. So going back to Sue's question earlier, the law forces us to allow additional dwelling units on smaller properties. But the reality is, if we don't have city water, city sewer, then it's almost impossible to meet those requirements. So
What is the septic that you don't think would happen here?
there are some scientifically engineered design kind of septic systems that you can put on small lots. But I haven't seen any of them in our town, or even close to us. And
May I ask a question about the definition of an accessory dwelling unit? On page 19, the house on the corner of Buttermilk that had a fire, her brother was living in a camper. Now, is that allowed? Is a camper considered a dwelling unit?
depends. If the dwelling unit, if it's a dwelling unit, if it's hooked, it basically hooked up to a septic system. Or, yeah. And you have to have for a dwelling unit, you've got to have a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen and a living area. That's
Camper has that.
right. Yeah. But this law doesn't affect that. It has no impact on this.
And number 6, on page 19, it says no additional parking shall be required for any accessory dwelling.
Correct.
You've got to have parking. Can we?
State laws directly out of the state law, the state will not allow us to say, and this is part of what they want. They want additional dwelling units, and they do not want us to put additional restrictions on it. That's exactly out of the state law.
So there's nothing that we can add or change.
Yes, we can minimize and we can go with the minimum requirement, but we can't change their specific requirements. That's like this. Yes.
Population in the state of Maine growing? Is the population growing in the state of Maine?
Well, here's their argument, and it's kind of a legitimate. One of the reasons that the population in the state of Maine is not growing is because there's no housing for the people. People cannot find a place to live where they want to work, so they're not coming.
Like I said, we're going to my sister's house now and $400,000 in the house. I mean, affordable housing, the pipe dream pretty much at this point. Just, I'm real, you can't build well, cheap, just.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My concern is for this town, as in Rockland, I recently went to the south end in Rockland. And I didn't go on all the streets, I hadn't been there for several years. And I saw probably $9 million plus houses, okay? So that wipes out anybody who has a low income to move to that area. And I don't want that to happen to my town, so I don't want $1 million houses on a waterfront. So
Then
town-
you're in favor of affordable housing, of putting more small houses on
No,
smaller lots.
no, I'm not.
Okay.
But I just don't want that. I don't know if I'm opposed or, that's not my question. My question is, what can be done so that doesn't happen in this town? So everybody doesn't, so people come in from away, if you will, and buy these houses, tear them down, put up the McMansions that the rest of us can't afford. What can we do as a town to stop that?
Don't sell your house.
Yeah.
Don't sell your land. Keep it in your family. But that's, I mean, I say that almost flippantly because what can we do? That isn't something that is in our purview.
Well, I'm wondering about the thing you said we couldn't do anything about, like people who come in the summer and leave. And so there's a house sitting there for 6 months. I mean, can we do anything like that in the town to stop that?
How would we? How
I don't
could
know,
we?
I'm asking, I don't know.
I can't even imagine a legal way of doing that.
There are towns who have started to regulate short-term rentals.
Right.
I think the tenor of the group here at our public meeting about, what was it called, our informational meeting. It was clear that most people did not want to deal with regulating, even registering, let alone regulating the short-term rentals, which is the first step, and that's what municipalities have done. They've tried to limit them. They put limits on the number of them when you have to apply, and there's licensing. My read of this town is that would fail miserably if we would bring it up at a town meeting. But there's nothing to stop somebody from trying to get that on the warrant and actually forcing a vote on it. That's about the only thing I could see that is a first step toward trying to do something about short-term rentals.
But that doesn't deal with her specific question.
No.
I mean, if someone wants to come in and buy my house, tear it down and put up $1 million house.
So I thought she changed the question to one of affordable housing,
Well,
the short-term rental.
I get it. Okay, well, I'm kind of back to the original question.
Yeah, no, I
I
agree.
mean, I'm agreeing with Jeff. I mean, I can't imagine anything we could do to say you couldn't sell your house for X amount of dollars.
Of course not. I mean,
Not talking to you, I'm talking to you.
No, I understand.
free enterprise, capitalism, it's our
I'm
system.
just asking because I have a feeling, it's very upsetting to me to see Rockland change like that.
Yeah.
And I don't see that happening here yet, but it may.
Oh, yeah.
Or that's already
It
happened
has.
here.
I mean, I see stuff, but I don't see it as blatantly as when I ride around Southtown in Rockland.
And I
see it.
And I said it flippantly, don't sell your house, but we are in an interesting time with properties right now. We are seeing non-waterfront properties selling for very high prices. And what's the reason for that? It's because right now, there are people who want to buy and invest in land. They would prefer it to be on the water, but guess what? Nobody's selling their waterfront properties. There's a lot of land inland, properties inland that people are buying sight unseen. And then coming in, tearing down the house and either building or just investing in it. So right now, we're seeing the value of non-waterfront increase, while the value of waterfront kind of stays stagnant. But it's an interesting discussion, but it has little to do with our ordinances that we're proposing. Are there anybody who would like to either speak for or against? Neither for nor against? Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say that I agree that this is not gonna have a dramatic impact on affordable housing prices because there's many factors that are contributing to the rapid rise in housing costs. But I think it is fair to say that it's at least an attempt to create more units, which in theory could drive prices down or keep them, I'll retract that, could keep prices from increasing as much as they would be increasing, potentially. I don't think it's gonna drive prices down, but I do think it's an attempt.
Right, I totally agree. I mean, it's supply and demand, the theory of supply and demand, I think the state is trying to do the best that they can do. And hoping that if every town could build 30 or 40 of them. And they're putting it on the backs of the individuals, which is good. I mean, they're hoping that people will see that space above their garage, figure they can put in the plumbing and make it a small kitchen unit and get some extra money, and there's another dwelling unit. And if enough towns have enough of that happening, I think their hope is that does put a dent in the need, the desperate need.
My concern is though, if you let people do this, they put in the additional dwelling unit or the accessory unit, they can all turn them into Airbnbs. They don't have to be affordable housing for people who live here. They can just be more rentals that they can, for tourists. And there's nothing in there to prevent that. And if we don't even have them registered, we don't know. You know, they could all just be more money for somebody.
But which is why the state is pushing and recommending that towns begin to regulate short-term rentals. Because that's exactly where this could lead, with the additional dwelling units and accessory dwelling units could turn into more Airbnbs and Verbos that drive up and decrease the amount of affordable housing.
Right.
You're increasing the number of houses, but they're being used for vacations. And so folks who want to live here still don't have access to those properties that are being built.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
On the white side of that, Airbnbs don't send kids to school, don't raise their income, property taxes, all these other units. You're gonna get more kids, you're gonna have all extra kids in school, so the school prices can go up because the number of kids that go up. Airbnbs don't provide any added money to need for the schools, so there is an upside to that.
But that may be an upside, it may be a downside as well.
Well, if you add the number of kids in school with more units, you'll have more populated younger people, you'll have more kids in school, so the school price is gonna go up, obviously. Airbnbs don't generate any kids that are living here in the school here, so there is a bit of a tax break on that.
They also don't generate much in the way of taxes from the town either.
Well, they give the income tax, they pay property tax on Airbnb, so the town gets money, but doesn't have any kids in the school.
If you have a house and you put a dwelling unit inside that house, your taxes are going to increase about that much.
If the town knows about it.
And that's if the town knows of it. And I mean, only if you add an additional structure will your taxes increase.
I have a comment.
Hold on, we got one here.
This is just a comment, but I mean, that building that's turning into Airbnbs is not a place where the teacher you need for these kids, the fireman, the policeman, none of these people that we need and can't, and we got a job for them, but we can't find a place for them to live. It's in the paper all the
Right.
time.
Right.
The so-and-so, they thought they found a great person for this job, but they couldn't find a place to live, so they're going someplace else.
It happens all the time at the school, all the time,
Drive out the Somerset Road and you'll see 2 new foundations going in.
for the same.
Just
Oh,
off,
it's not on the ocean side.
no, it's just opposite the road that goes down to the breakwater. And those are gonna be buildings, I don't know how big, substantial foundations. That is built by the Somerset for their workers, because they can't find workers. And the reason they can't find workers is because the workers can't afford to do the wrong.
Yeah.
So they're gonna take it into their own hands.
There
And
should be more of that.
Camden School District is looking to turn a building that they own into housing, making it into apartments for teachers, because they can't hire teachers. We have teachers that travel 45 minutes to get to work.
And
Because
they've just
that's the
done that.
closest they can get.
For the same reason.
Yeah.
And they've built the place.
Irv, did you have something?
Yeah, just quickly, I think you'll find that bookings for short-term rentals are way off this year. And these houses, the people are not gonna hold them empty. They're gonna turn them into long-term rentals. So I don't think it's an acute problem as, it could be due to the fact that people are not short-term renting these houses all summer anymore. I know for a fact they're way off this year because of the economy. People don't have the money to go on vacation. So that's, it's not all one way that's all I want to say.
Okay, last chance.
Jeff, on affordable housing, on page 20, section 4C, they give percentage of income that you need to qualify for affordable housing. Is that set by the state?
Yes,
Yeah.
Can't do anything about it.
right. No, and it's their definition, and it changes now. So
And I thought it dated to 1937. Yeah, I
possibly.
read something about this, the statute or whatever goes back to 1937.
How about that, but I can tell you that when this law was first being discussed, that we were told specifically it would not apply to our town. And so we were unpleasantly surprised to find out that we were mandated to make changes. And the law is really designed for a place that has city water, city sewage. And so I'll give you another thing that's hidden in this law that will have a pretty strong impact. If you are going to build an accessory dwelling unit, additional dwelling unit, or an affordable house, you have to verify to the CEO that you have adequate water and sewage. we have always said you have to tell us you have good sewage. The LPI inspection process is built around that. We have never required you to tell us you have potable water in your house. But that's now going to become a requirement. So the CEO is going to have to get from somebody building a certification from some lab, I don't know. Water testing labs are now going to be making a determination before you can even get a permit to build that from.
But people don't build wells before they build a house.
They're gonna have,
They may have to start.
they're gonna have, what they're gonna have to do is, right now, before you build a house, you do go and, normally, most people will get a perk test to find out if you can build a well.
Right.
What you're gonna now have to get, some way of determining that that's gonna be potable water you're getting out of that well.
And enough.
And enough, that's right, quantity and quality. So,
I don't know how they're gonna do that.
yeah.
Jeff, since you're right there, could you just give them a brief description of the subdivision requirements for these buildings?
Oh, yeah, oh, that's another thing that this town has probably not realized until this law pointed it out to us. If you have, you all know that if you divide your property up into 3 properties, right, you have to come to the town and present a subdivision plan for that property. So as soon as you divide it up to the 3rd level, right, you can split your property, do that with your kids or yourself. But if you do the 3rd, if you've got a 3-acre lot and you make 3 1-acre lots, within, right, yeah. There's some time restrictions on it and whether or not it's arm's length and your kids are involved, but anyway. But you still have to come to the town, to the planning board and get a subdivision plan approved. Very detailed. That applies not just to land that you're subdividing, but if you put a 3rd dwelling unit on your property, you have to come to the planning board to get a subdivision approval. The 3 division applies to dwelling units as well as land. Who knew?
I didn't know the CEO. I had no
Right.
idea.
But we know now.
So could that be in a house, an accessory unit and another building? That's 3.
Right.
Okay.
As soon as you do 3 dwelling,
Subdivision.
it becomes you have to come to the planning board.
Well, one mitigating factor would be if you live in a house right now, that has, you've already got another unit, like you got a mother-in-law apartment.
Right.
If they've been in existence for 5 years, you could put a 3rd unit without
Yes.
triggering a subdivision review.
You are correct.
As long as you lived in the house.
Okay. Yeah, probably right.
And if it was over a certain acreage. A larger.
You need to have the, wherever you, depending on.
If I think if it's over 15 acres or something, or maybe 45, but that doesn't matter.
Okay. Getting ready to call this public hearing to an end, unless anybody else has another comment or question. Okay, public hearing is closed. We'll now open the select board meeting. So first is adjustments to the agenda. Yeah. Thank you, John. And Terry, you had a couple of things you wanted to add. Under new business.
Yeah, the first one would be discussion on the fire department's purchasing software.
Okay.
Consider Sandra Wallace's draft letters regarding the forest preserve. Discussion on handouts at town meeting. Discussion on the MOA's request to be paid at the beginning of the month. And a request from the town administrator to close the town office at 4:30 on June 18th to prepare for town meeting, and June 27th to close out the year.
Okay. I'm missing one. I have the software, the request to close, I have forest preserve letter, mower, was there one more?
Fire department?
No, distributing material at town meeting.
Oh, town meeting. Okay,
And I have two.
oh, all right,
Minor.
all right.
One is I just want to give a brief update on the flow. And the other is I would like, I came across some grant applications that DOT has, request for grant applications. That if I can pull it together between now and July 1st when they're due, I would like your authorization to do that. They're basically, I'll give you the details.
All right, so. Update old business, our old business, updating, the cleanup of the Maine Coast seafood property. Do we need to take any action or we?
I don't
think
think we need to take any action. Do we want to update folks on
Yeah,
what the plan is?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we want me to take
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
We just had a long discussion with our attorney. And we decided we're going to issue them a notice of violation. She's gonna draft it. And we're gonna give them, I think it was 10 days initially to,
take some very
take
specific.
some very specific actions. And if we do see some progress, we can then sit down and negotiate a plan. But, you know, they're gonna have to do something quickly. If that doesn't happen, we're, the intent is to file an action in court, to put it simply.
What would that entail, John?
Pardon?
What would that entail? What would we be seeking in that court action?
Getting them to clean it up.
What if they just decide to walk away from the property?
We didn't get that far with it.
Some of that machinery looks like a ton of water,
Yes.
let's say, wouldn't get involved in that?
We've tried, we haven't had a lot of luck, Terry's, we called, DEP, DMR,
Land submerged land.
submerged lands, everybody passes her to somebody else and then they pass it back to her. But we are gonna try with DEP again because that tank is right near the road. We can't seem to get a clear answer whether there's product in that or not. The gauge says it's half full and it's not in a containment. And it's right there on the edge of the water. Now, the gauge could be broken. Somebody at one point told me that it had been pumped out, but.
Who owns that property then?
That's the complicating
That's
part.
part of the problem.
It was an LLC that was dissolved. And so a bunch of heirs and members of the LLC became the owners when the LLC dissolved. And they're scattered to the wind. And the last time we went through this process, took us quite a while to locate, track down all of the individuals who own that property.
Do you know what's in that tank side of the road?
Actually, it's either gasoline or diesel.
I was thinking, I
have no idea.
was told years ago, it was something like nitrogen.
I don't know.
Nitrogen?
No, I don't think so.
What do you use for coal?
Yeah, nitrogen.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anything in it.
Are they paying the taxes on the property or are they behind them?
They're behind on taxes, right? But they pay before it forecloses.
So that probably tell you who owns it then, right?
Well, we have a secretary where she sends a tax bill, you know, but even that's been a problem, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Hannah finally
Yeah,
got the promise of a check, but we don't have one yet.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not, we don't know who owns it. It's contacting them and getting information to them and then getting a decision from the herd of cats. Yes, sir.
Many towns give a notice, you have 30 days.
That's what we just said we're doing. We're giving a 10-day notice of violation and giving them 10 days to act.
I know, what I was gonna add was that then the town would have the right to clean it up and make a tax lien on it.
There's not exactly, but there's steps involved first which is what we have to go through first.
Certainly, but it's, it's been 6 months basically now. It's time to get it cleaned up. It's bad.
We agree 100%.
Well, just kind of take the step to clean it up yourself and put the lien on the property quite a bit.
We cannot do that without going through the legal steps. And that's what we're doing.
We just had a long consultation with our attorney on what we can and can't do and how quickly and.
We spent almost an hour talking to her about this very issue. Okay. All right, update from the Library and Community Center Auxiliary.
I just, as president of the auxiliary, I just wanted to provide you folks with an update, but I'm actually, if you'll indulge me, gonna turn it over to Barbara and Sandy. Barbara, they're right here. They have more of the details, if that's okay with you.
Yes, please.
So last month, I reported that we applied to Congress for $3,460,000 to build a new library and community center in South Thompson. Today, I can report our application has moved forward and will be funded through Congresswoman Pingree office. On June 11th, we'll find out how much of our request will be funded. This is dependent on how much Congress will appropriate for state projects, an amount that varies from year to year. I learned yesterday that 100% of Congresswoman Pingree's past recommendations have been funded in full or in part. The auxiliary continues to look for philanthropic organizations that fund libraries in Maine, and we write applications as deadlines approach. We're confident that raising the balance for this new building is possible without local taxes.
Nice. I'm just making sure. Forest Preserve.
Excuse me,
Yes, ma'am.
what's wrong with the old building?
That's not the topic here, but I'll tell you right now, it's not gonna last another 40 years. It has lots of physical problems between the roof, the ceiling, the floor, the heating system, the asbestos in the basement, the lack of ability to use the basement because it's not ADA compliant. There's a laundry list of things that are wrong with the building that the brick and mortar might be here for 50 years, but the rest of the building is not. But that's another story, and we will pass on that for now. So new business, Forest Preserve. I think this is still.
Had a draft letter from Sandra, right?
Yeah, oh, that's what it is. Yeah. Yes.
Sandra, the chair of the Conservation Commission,
Forest Preserve.
has reported that it looks like we're gonna be able to get the entire purchase price back from a Land for Maine's Future grant application that her and Catherine Warren worked on. That would reimburse the entire purchase price at $67,000. But a while back, we had sent out a letter to the town asking for people to donate, before we knew this, donate funds to help defray some of the $67,000 that we approved at the last year's town meeting to purchase the property. And we received several donations. I don't remember the exact total. Do you know off your head? But it was a few thousand, maybe a little more than that. But if we get this full reimbursement price, we won't need the donations to offset to pay ourselves back, so to speak. Because if we get the full amount, we'll have paid ourselves back. So Sandra is requesting, and she's drafted a letter, that we send out a letter saying, explaining all that and what's transpired. And would you object if we repurposed your donation still to be spent on the land, which I guess is sort of taking on the name the Forest Preserve, for other things that need to be done, in order to obtain the $67,000 from the Lands for Maine Future. And I read the letter. I just have, I had two minor suggestions. I thought Sandra was going to be here, but I guess she is.
I was looking at this.
She's out of the country.
Oh, she is?
Oh,
Guess she won't be there. Catherine's here. I don't know if Catherine was involved in this letter at all, but
Yes, I know the content of the letter, yes.
I personally have no problem with it conceptually. I just have two minor suggestions.
Okay.
I just think it would, and do with it what you will, Sandra and Catherine, but I think in the first sentence of the third paragraph, it might be a little clearer if you said, to meet the LMF conditions. Right now it says to meet these conditions. When I first read it, I didn't reference it back to the other previous paragraph.
Mm.
And then I also think, where it says, please let us know your wishes concerning its use, referring to the donation. I think we should be a little more specific about who you need to contact. And my suggestion would be Terry. So it all goes to one place.
Yes, I
guess
agree. Yeah.
I think it's gonna be basically a yes or no. No, I'll take my money back. Yes, you can use it for these other purposes.
I mean, we need people to understand that we won't get the $67,000 unless we fulfill the requirement of a survey, of an appraisal, you know, the yellow book type appraisal, and also an environmental assessment of the land, and then a forester plan. So each of these things, which are very useful, because the appraisal, you know, is needed for LMF, but also will open doors for us to ask for other grants. So like when we need to, you know, do work to develop trails and so forth, and even get some grant for a 10-year forester plan. And a forester plan, again, is something very useful. It's going to tell us about the health of the forest itself, and if we have, you know, species to take care of, and, you know, all this useful information. So it is my hope, obviously, that all the people who gave money will agree to have their donation repurposed to help pay for those other steps. And I have a question, if I may. Did the surveyor finish his job?
I don't know.
You have done. I've seen him out there. I don't think anyone here has talked to him recently.
And I was under the impression that his estimate had been revised downwards. Is that correct or not?
The what?
Is that advised downward?
Yeah, like originally we had talked about 12,000, and then I was under the impression it was going to be closer to 8. Did I dream that? No.
I never heard it.
I would doubt it.
Okay. Too bad. All right. That's all.
What's a nice dream?
you want to make?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, that we approve, well, actually, she has us sending it out. Which is fine, because we sent the original one. That we approve, authorize sending out to the folks that made donations with those two minor corrections.
Yes.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Fire department software. Think that's you, sir?
Cliff.
Oh, is it Cliff?
Yeah, it's
Cliff.
Yeah, it's Cliff.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm in cyberspace. So
That's all right. So am I.
yeah. Thank you very much for allowing me to address this issue. It's a brief one. The fire service wishes to acquire a fire department software package, which will do the lion's share of the management of the software that is currently lion's share of the management that's currently being done on paper and is very, very time consuming. It'll do things like reports to the national agency, payroll, run reports, inventories and whatnot. It's going to be a substantial amount of work to populate it to start with, but after that, it will be a big time saver. It costs $2,800 a year, and that is not in the fire department budget for this year. There is that amount of money in the local health officer budget that is not currently being allocated for any task. And I would like to have select board, and by the way, this has been discussed with the chief. I would like to have permission from the select board to move that amount of money from the local health officer budget to the fire service budget to allow them to purchase the software for this year.
I have, go ahead, 3 questions. One was, is there an annual license fee? And I think you just answered that. There is an annual fee.
I did.
I assume it will increase over time, but
it hasn't, John, it hasn't historically. That's this company's been in business for some time, and that's been their price for quite a while.
okay. What about tech assistance? If something
They have a very robust tech assistance, 24 hours, 24/7 tech line, and we've been assigned a technical officer whose name is Heather, and she's thus far they set up a Slack channel which is monitored 24/7 as well. So if there are problems that arise, they're addressed.
And is it free?
Yes. Well, it's not free. It's involved in the pack. It's included in the package.
Right. There's not. All right. I'll rephrase. Is there an additional cost for the tech assistance?
No.
Okay.
No, there's not.
And then when you use the word payroll, that kind of caught my attention. I'm not sure what you mean by payroll, because I mean, the payroll is processed centrally in the town office and would continue to need to be. Are you just talking about prepping the payroll to give to Terry?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Terry would end up so right now that's being done internally within the fire department. And it's a time consuming task because every time we do a run, we fill out a piece of paper that has the number of hours and what it was used for. Now it'll be done with this software. It's done on an iPad with a check mark and immediately generates at the end of the month an Excel spreadsheet. So it just would be just a time saver in terms of that process.
And hopefully it won't cause the front office, cost them more time.
I can't see why it would. They have that data to process as it is now.
Half teasing.
Yeah, I think right now, Phil gets all those sheets, the run sheets that he's talking about, and Phil puts them in a spreadsheet so that he can keep track of things.
So it actually would probably save you time.
Yeah.
And we still do fire department quarterly?
Yeah.
It's the other thing is that of all the grants that we're writing, select board, they all ask for a detailed inventory of equipment on hand. And it's hard to maintain that. One of the things this software does, which is pretty slick, is it labels it doesn't label, you have to do it manually, but once it's done, it's done. It labels the equipment so that it can be inventoried on our monthly fire department checks by scanner as opposed to going through it piece by piece.
And I actually have one other question, which is escaping me at the moment. Just went right out of my head.
The chief's already agreed that this is something he'd like.
Yes, we met with the vendor and he was approval, but the stopping point was the money.
So that I just remembered my question. So the so-called LHO fund is money that you would have gotten in salary for being the health stipend, if you will, for being the health officer that you're not taking and donating back to this fund. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's right.
What was it called, the purchase?
Go ahead.
So rather than do that, why don't you take it from the fire department equipment reserve? Which you can do just by the three people agreeing, correct? And I have a question for Cliff, is it cloud or premise-based software?
Oh, it's cloud.
Okay, thanks.
I think the direct-
Yeah.
The direct answer is that was not their proposal.
Right.
Cliff, change the proposal.
I'm happy with it the way it is, and so is the chief. So when the chief's happy, I'm happy.
So Sue's question is it 1,400 or 2,800?
It's $2,800 a year.
But is there a cost to purchase it and then 2,800 a year? Or just 28?
No, that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
It's not-
And
It's
there's a
software
pretty
as a
robust.
service. It's not.
Yeah, it's software as a service, right? And there's a very at least they're proposing a very robust assistance in installation. They're going to assign somebody full time for a month, and I'm going to be the interface with it, so it'll get done.
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal as presented here tonight regarding fire department software.
I'll second that.
Further discussions? All those in favor? 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. Okay, consider citizens petition regarding the Guilford Butler building.
I have a couple of comments.
Sure. Well, I find it.
I'm not sure, well, let me back up. When this first came in, Terry showed it to me, and we both had different interpretations of it. And I said, oh, no. I mean, to me, it says the key words are to change course from the current goal of demolition and replacement. And I think Terry saw it more as to just preserve that building, not necessarily do anything. So I guess I still read it the same way, that this basically, if this is put on the town meeting warrant, which if it's legal, it has to be. To me, it says everything we've been working for stops. Just, we change course. We throw out the Guilford Butler future report recommendation. We throw out the Article 10 vote. We don't necessarily, I guess, throw out the auxiliary vote, but why bother if we're not going to do the mission? So that's one thing, in a larger sense. And I guess what really bothers me is it feels like we're so close to perhaps raising money for a new building that's going to serve this town for 50 to 70 years. And this is becoming very real, this potential to raise this money. When most of us are going to be long gone and dead. And yet I feel like we're just throwing that opportunity away. And it just, I don't know, it's just, I feel like I'm in a Franz Kafka novel, that word is. But anyways, and I guess, on a more I guess I feel that way, whether this passes or not.
It's on
that
vibrate.
Even just the fact that we've got to deal with it is potentially gonna jeopardize that. And then I thought of the decisions we need to make, and I think the decisions we need to make is, one is illegal, which if that is true, then it needs to go on a warrant. And then we need to decide, some people have suggested a referendum, some people have suggested a special town meeting, some people have suggested this annual town meeting. I thought about that back and forth. I think they all have advantages and disadvantages. But I guess I come down on the side of putting it on this annual meeting warrant. Because I think the issue is very topical at the moment. There's a lot of interest in it. And I think it's very complicated. There's a lot of misinformation out there, which kind of steers me away from a referendum. And I also think that if we put this off, which we can do, well, in this case, 60 days, because we'd either have to put it on the, as I read it, on the next warrant, which is coming up like Monday is the deadline, or 60 days from now. So.
Or schedule a
town meeting within 60 days.
correct.
Right.
No,
So,
no,
well,
schedule a town meeting within 60 days.
right.
No, right.
Yeah, well, I don't know how to read that, but I guess I feel like we should, I've been hearing different advice and opinions from everybody, and I guess I feel like we should deal with it, because I think its very existence is gonna jeopardize, and, you know, the grant, all the grant which that we potentially can get, you know, working on, if it's hanging out there. And we don't deal with it. But having said that, I would like to propose to put on a competing article, which puts a little more positive spin on it and doesn't start out with the word demolition right in the first sentence, which was really not the goal. But I guess I'd like to hear you two read it the same way that I do, that changing course kind of means that, and you know, it's hard to get an opinion from 88 or 107 or 108 people. The changing course means that we are basically scrapping Article 10 and scrapping the Guilford Butler recommendations and scrapping the idea of a new building, at least at this time.
I agree with Terry's interpretation of it.
Which is
To preserve the building for future use. It doesn't say to stop what the other ones are doing.
But that's a change of course. That's what bothers me.
Well, because the current course is to demolish the building.
Well, current course that's a consequence of the.
Well, it is going to be, part of the current course is going to be to demolish the building in the process of building this other building.
So just gonna let that building sit there empty? I mean, it's just.
That's my
Yeah,
interpretation.
no, I know. I'm trying to understand it because.
Is that we're preserve the building.
Which,
Which one?
it's on, you say it was a number 3.
It's on number 2 and number 3.
Oh, which article?
It's for the
It's attached to this, yeah, for the signatures.
Oh, I was looking for it.
Oh, it is in there too.
right here.
Yeah, it's in there too.
Out loud.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to get to it with. Yeah. So it would be Article 26, to see if the town will direct the town officials to change course from the current goal of demolition and replacement of the Guilford Butler building and to preserve the existing Guilford Butler building for future town use. Yeah, when it says change course, our course right now is to build a new building.
And replace that building. I mean, that was the Guilford Butler Futures Committee recommendation.
Right.
I mean, our Article 10 said, and I don't have it committed to memory, but to fundraise and plan and fundraise for a new building. I mean, that to me is our course.
So you did not plan to demolish the building? Is that what you're saying?
No, that was part of the plan. But the way this reads, you could read it to mean,
Yeah, either way. but-
no, you can read it to mean build a new building. But leave the old one there. That's the way it could be read, easily could be read. that way.
And as a practical matter, there's not room for that.
Right, as a practical matter, it makes no sense for the old building to be in front of the new building. It's,
And do we want two buildings?
yeah, what would we use two buildings?
So, I mean, that's why I think changing course means dropping the new building. I don't see how you can, personally, I don't see it can be read any other way. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and we cannot change, which is why, if you remember in the earlier discussions, I recommended that whoever is doing this have a public meeting, a public hearing to discuss these things. And typically you do it in time to make changes to it, but that's not gonna happen.
Well, I think people, you're reading it one way, other people read it a different way, so it's all the interpretation.
Yeah, and
Of
that's,
what,
And that's a
that's the
problem,
problem.
and that's a problem.
That's the problem.
well, it's,
Yeah, that's exactly the problem.
So here's,
you two read it differently, Terry, and they don't agree with, they read it a different way.
so here's my question. If this article passes, what do we do?
As a board of
Understand how it's worded, I guess.
No, I mean,
What the meaning is,
what's it telling me to do?
what,
As a
good
board.
question. I don't know. I have the same question. What
What
are
do you
we
want us
supposed to do as a board if this?
well, I think it's, the townspeople wanna vote. And I know you can say they've already had 2 votes.
No,
More than that.
That's not the issue here.
That's not the issue.
No.
Well, they don't, the townspeople don't feel it, they did it, so
I'm-
we went out and got signatures and kind of educated people on what was going to happen, which they didn't know. So demolishing the building is a part of what the new plan is.
What the old plan is demolishing.
The new plan to raise money to build a new building is demolishing the building.
No, that was the original plan.
That's the original plan.
That was the plan
From the
right
beginning,
from the beginning.
okay? That's not a new plan.
So what's,
So
You're
here,
not
but
gonna
here's
demolish the building.
the
No, they
reason
are.
I have problems
they are.
with this article. What do we do with it? If it's voted on, if the town says, we agree with that statement. What does it mean to the select board to do? Do we stop everything we're doing?
why?
Because it says to change.
Change course.
Demolishing. Come on.
No.
So we should continue to try to raise money to build a new building?
And have 2 buildings on that site.
Well, I think the town needs another building. You're growing,
Well, that's a whole new.
Why don't you use the money to fix the old building?
it's
It's
all
useful.
That's, we can't.
Don't go there.
Cause it's so
Because
damaged.
nobody's gonna give you $5 million to fix the new building,
Yeah,
the old building. Nobody's
Can I
gonna
say
give that.
something? I'm more than willing, I agree, we need to get this on a warrant, I wanna put it on this annual town meeting warrant, I don't know that the others do. But I wanna know, and I'm not clear, and the fact that Sue and Terry read it one way, and Jeff and I read it another way, is prima facie evidence that it's not clear. So,
Okay, so what do you do now? So it's not clear, what do you do?
Jeff, you got people speaking, Walter's trying to speak, and
What do you do? It's not
Are they
clear,
just-
so how
Are
do
they
you?
done?
that's the question.
That's the question, but we can't clear it up because we cannot modify the article.
Which is why I propose putting on a competing article that reads something to the effect, and I also wanted it to be before this article, and I see in the draft it isn't.
We can fix that.
We can fix that. What was that in, number 3?
Three, yeah.
Which I think, because I wrote it, so of course I would think it's clear. And it's more positive. To see if the town will vote to reaffirm its previous June 15, 2021 vote pursuant to the recommendation of the Guilford Butler's Futures Committee to fundraise and plan for the construction of a modern, energy-efficient library and community center with a large reading room at the site of the former Guilford Butler School.
So my question to you is what happens if they vote yes for both? Because I could read that and vote yes for both.
That's the trouble with competing articles,
And then what do you do?
but people do them all the time. You hopefully don't get in that situation, but I'd much rather vote on this.
Yeah, but that's your opinion, John.
Right.
Right,
That's
I
not
just
John's
said,
opinion.
yeah, I just said that. I said, I think
John's
it's,
opinion.
right. It is, well, that's a fallacy I want to clear up. You folks, a lot of come in
Why?
here and
Are
you
you
say.
okay?
Why?
You constantly let it-
I'm sorry.
No,
How
it's
can
just
you-
Check
constantly.
your view,
I
check
didn't
your
realize
view.
I was on.
Yeah. A lot of people come in here and say, that's not what the town wants, but that's what the town voted. Sort of twice. And that seems to get lost in the discussion.
But I can tell you that I've talked to quite a few people who said that they didn't realize when they voted that this was what was going to happen. And now that they're in that building and they're using it and have all the functions that they go to there, they want it preserved. So, I mean, there are many different opinions, not just yours, not just mine.
Yeah.
Not just the people on the committees.
No, I understand that. But I read this article is, if it passes, the petition article, that we disband the facilities committee.
I don't read that.
I do. And I would vote to do that as a select board. That's it.
But why would you have to disband it? You could still build another building. The town has plenty of space.
I don't, no, this whole Gilbert Butler recommendation was for Gilbert Butler property. But anyways, go ahead.
Go ahead.
But what I heard you saying tonight,
Quiet, please.
what I heard you saying tonight is you as a select board can't amend this petition language.
Correct.
As I recall, last year at the town meeting, though, somebody from the floor of the town meeting can propose an amendment to this language at the town meeting, and then that's voted on. As you and John both.
Even if it's
John was ruled out of order and Jeff yours was out.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. The only thing you can amend is an ordinance. Yeah. And this is not an ordinance.
That's what happened last year about the Gilbert Butler language.
Yeah.
Jeff, you proposed the.
Yeah.
John language to it.
That's another option.
And the moderator said, yeah, Jeff's is germane and with John's was not. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to help clarify it. If somebody at the town meeting can modify it.
Yeah.
Walter.
Do you have an answer to the statute language about the 60 days? Did somebody ask Kristen about that? Because I'm gonna stand behind English being my mother tongue and saying that you can delay, and I don't like kicking the can down the road. But in this case, if you wait the 60 days, whether you call a meeting on day 60 or you wait 60 days to call a special town meeting, you're gonna have the answers to a lot of questions. How much of the $3.4 million is Shelley gonna fund, or the Congress gonna fund? There are 2 more grants that are outstanding for the auxiliary, and oh, by the way, you guys can disband the facilities committee, but you can't disband the auxiliary. So, what?
Separate entity.
It's private, it's a.
Right, my suspicion is most of them would resign if they were working on a renovation project, but anyways.
Use the same money in a grant too for another purpose.
Well,
I didn't mean to get you off track.
The Shelley Pingree grant specifically says it can only be used for a new building. Right. And can I just spend a minute on why that is? I'm on the board of 2 non-profits, and Grants are our lifeblood. And let me tell you what granting agencies rings their bell in 2024. Energy efficiency, environmental sensitivity, battling climate change, mitigating against climate change. So what you've already heard from Congresswoman Pingree is she's taking forward $3.4 million for us for a new building. No way is she gonna fund an old building that is energy inefficient, poorly ventilated, and has all those problems, because they're thinking about the future, the same as the facilities committee and the same as the auxiliary. And I just, it frustrates me that people want to spend my tax money on a substandard building. So that's the end of my speech. But I think you'll get more clarity if you wait, because you don't have to put this on this warrant. You have an out.
Could I ask a question of Barbara, because she's the one who's dealt with Shelley's office the most? And you perhaps don't have the answer to this, but if we did wait, with the fact that this petition is sitting out there, do you think that would decrease our chances of getting the grant? Or I can't imagine it would increase, but do you think it would decrease the chances of getting the grant, or would it not have no impact? And if you don't know the answer,
I
don't
don't
answer.
know the answer.
Okay.
I can tell you that I've mentioned it to a member of our staff, that there is some dissent in town as to whether or not this building should go up, and she said, oh, that happens all the time. But there is absolutely no way this money can move from a new building to a renovation. It's got a project description, it's got a project name, it's got answers to 30 pages of questions that bear no relevance to renovation. We can decide not to accept this money. $1 million or more, 2.8 is what we're hoping for. Say goodbye.
So
I think we need to get it on though.
could we first decide if we feel it's legal? I don't think we need to vote, but
Why would it not be legal?
I'm not
Well,
saying, I'm just going step by step. I think the first step is illegal.
Yeah, I think it's legal.
I do too.
So do I.
And you do. Okay.
I missed that. What'd you say?
I said, I just was suggesting that we kind of maybe take it step by step, and the first question is it legal? Okay, if it was asking us to plow a private road, we wouldn't have to put it on because that's illegal. Okay, so we all agree it's legal. So then the question, it seems to me, is do we want to do it at an open meeting or at a referendum?
I don't like a referendum because the same discussion, I think the discussion is important.
You'll have no discussion on the referendum.
I know.
Correct. Which is why, yeah.
I'm not advocating a point, I'm just saying that's sort of the next fork.
I think it needs to go here.
I think, well, can we just stick with open meeting versus?
Yes, open meeting.
Open
Okay.
meeting.
I'm open meeting too. So then the question is, when?
I think annual town meeting is the only option. I don't like special town meetings, and I especially don't like ones that are in the fall.
Well, I tend to feel the same way. I just wish, it just feels like it's so quick.
But I would offer that it's not so. We've been discussing this exact question for months.
Yeah. I was hoping Barbara was gonna say, oh yeah, we're gonna lose this grant if you don't settle this, and that would have made the decision easy.
Well, we may.
Oh, no, I know we may. So you wanna do it this meeting,
Yes.
and Sue, you do?
I do.
Okay. So I don't have to decide.
You still gotta vote though. I won't take an abstention on this one.
I'm torn. But,
Herb?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can think.
Yeah. I've written some emails, as you know. There's really no need to rush this vote or rush this decision. You know, nobody's getting displaced out of Guilford Butler School. The committee can continue and the auxiliaries can continue to raise money. And this could be done at a later date. There's no rush for this to be decided on anytime soon. It's been 5 years. They're in there. I know they've got attached to it. They probably put their money into it. And that's great, but I don't think there's any reason to bring this warrant to, to vote with the townspeople at this time. You know, other towns, if you look around, Owl's Head, they took down the old school. They built a nice big new school there. Parents love it. Up in Rockland, they had to take down that McDougal School, and they got a nice park there now. People love that. So it's not like you won't have something better or something that you learn to love too. You know, I understand the sentiment down there. I went to school there, but I know what kind of shape the building's in, and it's kind of unfunded, and the repairs are unfunded. They don't have a plan really, so I would wait and not vote on this at the town meeting right now. I'd see what develops with the grants. Like I said, nobody's displaced. Everybody can use the building like they've been using it now. And that's all I get to say.
Yeah, the only issue I've got with that is that it means that we would do it at a special town meeting.
Put moratorium on it for now.
We can't. That's not one of our options. Our option is.
I would table it.
You're missing the point. This is a citizen's petition that is regulated by state law. And we have only a few limited choices. We either have to put it on the next warrant, which is this one, or within 60 days, schedule a special town meeting to do it.
Well, comment though.
Yeah.
I've done quite a bit of research on this, because I've given this a lot of thought. And if we have to schedule in 60 days, but from what I understand, it could go on next year's annual town meeting warrant, as long as it wouldn't frustrate the purpose of the petition. So in other words, if we were gonna tear down the building between then and now, that would frustrate the purpose of it. I'm not in favor of that, but I do think that it doesn't have to be right away. But it seems to me, we've already had that. I haven't said yet, but you two want to do it at this town meeting, so it seems to me that discussion's over.
Yeah.
So I'll defer to you two and say, yes, let's do it now.
Okay.
And then the last question I have is, I would propose we put on a competing article
I agree.
that's more positive and lets people know what the plan is and where it came from and. And I think the competing article should go before the petition article.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
So do we need a motion for all of
Well, I think the motion would be approving the warrant.
As approving the warrant article, third warrant.
Yeah.
with the exception of changing the order?
Swapping to.
And do we really want to put these at the end of the warrant?
Well, that was my thinking too, and I kept looking for it at the beginning of the warrant.
Well,
We typically do, I agree.
and we already have all that budget information.
Yeah, I know, it's
on
in the
that
town
one sheet
reports, I
in
know.
the town report.
Well,
I'll do whatever.
no, but I think there's an easy way. Someone can make a motion to take those two articles up out of order.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That requires a 2/3 vote, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way, because we'll get some real information about money, on June 11th. Is there any way we could postpone something until June 11th?
Well, the town meeting is after June 11th,
18th, right?
right?
So
Well-
we would have more information on June 11th than we have now.
Right, but,
We have to post the warrant no later than,
right, but, right, so that should influence the voters. I don't think we have an option to change this.
So, but minor technical question, the town meeting actually is June 11th when it
Correct.
starts.
Yeah.
We elect a moderator and then we go to the polls direct to the select board. And then we meet a week later on June 18th for all the other questions. It's what they call a bifurcated meeting.
So the bottom line is that if we know about the grant, we would know it a week prior to when we have to vote on it. So. Yes, ma'am.
Jeff, I have two comments. One is, and it's been bothering me for a long time, does the select board feel support building a new community center and library? Are they supportive of it? We voted on it and I agree with the process. We have been doing this, and then there are people that say they disagreed or didn't understand. It was pretty clear when I'm at every town meeting. But not everybody comes to town meeting, not everybody votes. And so my question is, do you support this? Second question is, these two warrants need to be at the end of the meeting. Because if you're going to have people come to the town meeting to just vote and leave, that's wrong. They need to go through all the budget numbers and know exactly what this town votes on, what they spend. Our budget's high, and those two warrant items should be at the end and make them sit for the entire town meeting.
pass the budget quickly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and for me personally, I am strongly in favor of a new building. I do not think that the old building, and I talked about it a little bit at the beginning of it, I don't think it is feasible to keep that building and do with it what the town needs to do. It absolutely, it cannot be made energy efficient. Without some structural work, which is gonna not require just the physical work of doing the structure, it's gonna require somebody to come in, an architect, design engineer, to say, this is what you need to fix. And that's, I think we're talking $3-4 million easy to fix that building. If we're just gonna Band-Aid it and live with it till it collapses, yeah, you can probably get away with something less than that. But there are fatal flaws in the building that it'll never be energy efficient. It will never meet the needs of the town. I will also say on the other side of it is, I haven't gone through the plans for the new building. And I think there is a lot of room for making the new building more of what we need and want, as opposed to something that some architect wants to design. Which means that if there are people who think they want something specific in a new building, then they need to be a part of that process to design it in there. But I can tell you that it will cost us a lot of money just to maintain the existing building, even if we don't renovate it. We're Band-Aiding it today. We are doing things because it's not structurally sound. I just can't even understand why somebody would want to live in that old building when they could have a brand new building with what they want on the inside of it. Doesn't pass the logic test, makes no sense to me. That's my spiel.
Has someone done a review on the building?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, way past that, way past, we're 5 years past that.
Can I ask a question?
The school gave that building away for a reason.
Okay.
Oh, John's got the floor right now.
No, actually, there was a question that she asked of each of us and
Out on the website.
Excuse me,
there's, and Sue or I haven't had a chance to speak to the question.
Right.
So do you wanna, or I will, I don't care, it doesn't matter.
That's either way.
Well, as somebody who actually goes to Gilpin Butler School, and my mother goes there a lot, I like the programming and everything that is there for everybody, and I don't see that.
Okay.
For what I see in here. I just don't believe that it's gonna still serve those same purposes for a lot of our citizens.
Why?
It just
Why
seems
can't
like
that
it wants to be this showpiece where we have art shows and more highbrow things than the everyday things that people are using.
No.
That's my opinion, that's my opinion, that's my opinion.
The programming is not part of the architecture.
Right.
Okay. I am,
Well, who's gonna run it?
Hey. I don't know.
She's not gonna run it.
Well,
well, okay,
John's got,
yeah, I'm,
And she's certainly not gonna volunteer to run it.
everybody please hold your voices down. John has the floor.
I am strongly in favor of the new building. I have been since we decided in the Gilbert Development Futures Committee to use that property for a library and community center. Probably 1 or 2 meetings into that, spent a lot of time talking with John Hanson, who is a registered architect, about a lot of the issues with the building. And I'll be honest with you, I was skeptical. As much as I endorsed the idea, I was quite skeptical that we were gonna be able to raise the money a year ago. But now I feel like we can do this. We're almost there, and we can build something that's gonna last another 70 years. Again, when we're all dead, and we're gonna throw it away. It just can't get my head. And we're gonna throw it away based on discussions from some guy who's not even an architect or an engineer, or a whole host of reasons, but. So I'm very much in favor of it, and even if we change course, which I think this says we are going to do, I would not be supportive of repurposing the downstairs for a meeting. I'd rather see us go back to the drawing board and add some sort of meeting room on or something, if it came to that, so. So yeah, I'm very much in favor of it, and I hope we can turn out and vote and resoundingly defeat this at town meeting.
And I want to think, for those of you who are saying that it's better to build it, to stay with the old building and try to renovate it, take a look at Thomaston, go talk to Thomaston, anybody in Thomaston, about what happened there, where they decided they were going to renovate that school there, and they regret it today. They regret it because they can't pay for everything that needs to be fixed.
Right.
And it'll nickel and dime you to death. And if you're worried about programming and control and who's gonna run it, that has nothing to do with building a building. The town puts into it the programming. And if somebody is not willing, because it's a new building as opposed to the old, to do what they've been doing, then shame on them, Penny. That could be a beautiful building, and it can have exactly the same programming, and it can have exactly the same control. Nothing in what we're doing right now is about the control of the library or the community center. It's not about governance. It's about building something for 70 years from now. And that school is not gonna last 70 years, no matter how much money you put. Yes, sir.
When we lived in Alaska 20 years ago, we had the exact building as this out here. And the school district decided to tear it down because having the same issues you have here, heating and all the different things. But the thing that was different on the thing is I was a PTA president. I got the community involved in it. And I turned around, got the kids involved with it in the school district. The principal and myself worked together with many parents. And we came up with the design of what we really want. I mean, you can build a structure but what's inside it is what you want, like window seats and stuff for kids to turn around, have their cubbies to turn around and read the social corner, or maybe there's computer labs, all these different things. What does this town really need? You know, and you get everybody to group together. I mean, your group, the other group that wants to have a new school and everything else. You guys gotta come together and make it a school that everybody's gonna, well, it's not a school, a community center that everybody's going to use. I mean, it can't be, no, I don't want it, and this one I do want it. And then you walk in and go, well, this isn't what I want. Yeah, get involved and make this what you want it to be.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. If you think that this new building is not gonna be what you want, then get involved during the design to make the inside of it what you want. Yes, ma'am.
I think we had a little bit of that in the facilities committee when we were working with Gabe and doing the visioning of the new building, not so much for what it's going to look like, but what kinds of spaces were going to be necessary to meet people's demands. And, you know, at the end of the futures committee, we said 4,500 square feet, which was an estimate based on, you know, just talking to departments in town. But people who were, Penny was part of that conversation, other people who were volunteering at the library, oh, we need this room for storage and we wanted that. That was really important because, you know, we're trying to make a kind of a spreadsheet of what's going to be in this building. And that is why the building is now at 6,000 square feet. So maybe we ballooned it too much, but in any case, it was to pay attention to what people's needs were, a kitchen, a space big enough for a town meeting that could be divided for exercise classes and for other things that are now happening in other buildings. We listened to all of that, and that is where we are at right now. Doesn't have a shape yet. We're just, you know, we're just beginning the next design process. And I don't know, I feel like this this petition is going to, you know, kind of stall us. I think the momentum is very good right now in terms of both the facility committee and the auxiliary, and I think we're working together as two groups right now to move forward. And as John says, we're close. We're getting very close. So I think all these comments about getting together and working together, and that we're not in charge of programming. This is about a building, just as you said, and I really second that notion. I also feel that people have had a lot of time. We've been at this now for 5 years with the futures and the facility to understand what's going on. I can't believe people don't understand it, but we, you know, the futures committee was very good at laying out the issues with the building and identifying them and, you know, saying, do we want this building? What were we going to do with this building? And coming to the conclusion, it wasn't worth putting a lot of money into. That's all very well documented. Everything after that has been processed, and I think we're at a very good place in our process right now.
Thank you. Patty?
I just wanted to point out that, you know, I did attend the facilities committee meeting, so I was not allowed to go. I did put input forward that, you know, it's like, okay, well, thank you, but. And at the futures committee, there were suggestions that I not be allowed to go. At the select board level, I asked for a vote to go the other way years ago, and I was told, yes, it will be on the warrant because we know you're going to petition, and then it was taken off the warrant when it was too late to petition. I think there has been a lot of confusion about the vote. I think there's confusion about this petition. I think it would allow them to build a new building elsewhere. I think there are a lot of potential uses for the building. I think it would be a lovely recreation department. There's, you know, a lovely playground. There's a beautiful community garden. The solar array is going to go in next week and the next 2 weeks. I've been told it's a wonderful candidate for heat pumps.
to reduce the fossil fuel usage. I think, you know, for you to say shame on me. And although I've been told I can't talk about it in the building, I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about it here or if I'm gonna be allowed to talk about it at town meeting. But to be told shame on me is.
The shame on you is because you said you would not be the librarian in that building.
Because what they have designed is not what we have now and is not going to be.
Then be part of the design to put in it what you
I
want.
have been part of the
Shame
design.
on the donors and the controllers of this who have not integrated with the programming that's going on there. It is on them who say they are building a building without awareness of the program, so the shame lies there.
That's totally untrue.
Yes, ma'am.
Entirely true, Walter.
Okay, hey, you two, enough.
I remember sitting in this room 5 years ago on the Futures Committee, but as a member of the community, with things going up on the board about what everybody wanted. We're not there yet. You have to have a place to put it that's gonna stand. We had a structural analysis done that said this building will not survive. My concern is, if we don't do this new building and the building falls apart, then that goes on the tax roll. I have not seen any budgets from anybody at all about keeping an old building. Well, that's gonna have to go on our tax rolls. You can't get grants for that. Not possible. We know, I mean, people that have worked in writing grants for years and years, what they'll accept for a grant application and what they won't. Anyway, that's it.
Yes, sir.
I'm a little new to all this. I've never been in the building, but, and I'm sure you guys have discussed all this, but I got a lot of friends in the trades. And they tell me if they got a rewire or replumb or HVAC, something 700 years old, times 3. And if the owner of the building said do it, they salivate, no problem. When do you want us to start? It's conservatively 1/3 of the cost to electrify, plumb, HVAC, and do everything for building under new construction, and it is old. So whatever that building needs, if you're doing major things like that to it, you can ask any contractor, and they'll probably tell you it'd be 3 times as much as opposed to this building coming from the ground up. So that's something to do for money. You probably already discussed it. Just the nature of it. If you gotta rip things out, you gotta put them back in.
Okay.
It's easier to work with open ceiling, bays and open walls.
I'm done.
And
Moving on. So we've considered the citizens petition. And now it's time to sign the town warrant.
I have a unrelated question on the town warrant, on the very last paragraph. Does that,
2 or 3.
that doesn't matter.
I think we're looking at 3.
I think they're the same.
Everything's the same except for the last.
Right, but the very last paragraph, which says the register will be. I thought we had talked about this. I think the register, it should say the register will be in session beginning at whatever time on the 11th too. Because if someone wants to come in and register, it does.
It's
Huh?
right there at the beginning.
It is.
On the first part.
Okay. Perfect.
I listened to you, John.
You just put it in a different place. No, I mean, just because if someone wants to come in and vote that day, they can register that day and vote, so. Okay. So I'll make a motion that we execute, town meeting warrant draft, town meeting warrant labeled number 3 by Terry Nink, with swapping Article 20, the order of Article 26 and 27.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? 3-0 passes.
So if I switch it and print it, you'll sign it, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
What are you gonna do about a competing article?
That,
That's already just,
that's one of them.
just approved.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Explain what, from June 11th and June 18th, this is all new to this town. There's two, can you explain what's happening on June 11th and then what's happening on June 18th? So I have a clear idea.
What happens then?
June 11th is voting. You vote.
But what are we voting for?
For the town meeting, there's two things that get voted on. The moderator at the beginning. And right now, I think I'm the only person that's running for the select board position. So that's what you vote on.
Okay. So
And
people come in, vote, and then leave.
Oh, it just like always, so it lasts all day long.
Okay.
Okay.
The polling hours, I think, are right in the.
No
discussion about
No.
State government.
Normal election.
Okay.
But that's not part of this warrant.
No,
Right.
So, and then at the end of the voting during that day, we go into recess until June 18th. And then we come back and do what we have always done. The only exception is we've already elected a moderator and we've already elected a select board member. So those are not part of the warrant for the rest, for the second half of the town meeting. For those that don't know, at the last town meeting, was it the last one or the time before that?
Yes.
No, it was the last one. You approved doing it that way. At the previous one, you had done a straw poll to approve doing it that. Okay. Now see if I can figure out where I am on my list of things that we have to do.
A whole bunch of stuff added to that.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking to see if there's any.
Historical society, you people are here.
Okay.
Which is actually the next item. Convenient.
Well, no, actually, oh, yeah, Hopkins, okay. Consider the request to use the Hopkins Fund of $5,500 for the Historical Society.
I have an 1857 old map, and I've been told I think there's only 4 or 5 in existence. And that was the estimate that we have, or the quote that we got to repair it. And it's being done looking at a place at Restoration in Andover, so it's down there now. We did apply for a grant, but they said they had so many that came in that we could reapply next year, but we really would like to get it done before it's even more decrepit. Yeah.
I would entertain a motion to approve.
Can somebody tell me how much money is in that account?
40,277.62.
And we don't have any of it allotted anyplace else that hasn't been paid. Okay.
Yeah, this is not the.
This is the
Not the
historical
repair
society.
money
Right,
for the building,
this is a historical society fund.
right, that we're the trustees for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll move, we approve the $5,550 request from the Historical Society to, I'll move that he approve the expenditure of $5,550 from the Hopkins Fund pursuant to the Historical Society's request.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was, yeah, you voted on, you have to say. And consider the request to put Historical Society drop-off box at Guilford Butler Center.
Not sure why that had to come here. We would probably just ask Penny. But a lot of times Penny will get documents or papers, and then she has to contact someone at the Historical Society. And we just thought if we had like a drop box at the library, it would make her life easier and just have a place for people to drop that sort of thing off.
that okay with you?
That's only happened once, but that's fine, I mean.
Yeah, I had the same question. Why is this even on the agenda?
Because that's what the email said.
Huh?
That's what the email Beverly sent me said.
Oh, Beverly asked for it to be on. That explains why it's on. Do we need to do anything now that it's on the agenda? I'll make a motion, we table it.
Yeah, oh, no,
No?
no.
I just was gonna let them work it out. All right, I'll make a motion, we approve it.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, 3-0.
Thank you.
I gotta go to my other list.
Still two more adjustment items, just
Yeah,
before you get, before you adjourn.
I know.
And you have to certify all the ordinances.
Oh,
That's on there too.
Okay.
You guys are gonna be here till midnight, signing papers.
All right, so mowing. Changing payment from the end of the month to the beginning of the month. So it only makes a difference.
For the first month.
Right.
So he wants us to pay before he does the work? Is that right, Terry?
Yes.
Why don't we just pay him bi-weekly or something? I mean, do we pay anybody else in advance?
No,
We don't play the snowplow contract in advance or the,
well, I mean, maybe in theory, because we start paying them in November, sometimes it doesn't go till January, but.
yeah, but he's out at the end of the summer. I don't know, I know something about, huh?
It doesn't make any difference to me. It's only the first one that.
Yeah, but
I
then you're paying
The last
the last one, and
before.
that's to hold him to finish in the season.
Yeah, no, there's no, I don't know, I don't like the.
Because it's a bid, right? So he gets a certain amount of money
That's right.
and we just divide it up by the typical mowing months.
Yeah.
I mean, not that he would, but. I mean, suppose something happened to him and, you know, we paid him for the last month and he can't do it. The money's gone and we gotta get it back and.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Are we up for mowing bid again?
No,
And we have a request from the. Mower to pay him in the beginning of the month as opposed to the end of the month, which is what the contract says.
Well, he's doing a lovely job.
He is, matter of fact, I was gonna compliment him,
Secretaries have been great. He's bent over backwards to make
Yeah.
things work
but
well.
still, the idea of paying someone ahead of time, just.
I know. But on the other hand, you know, he's kind of got over the barrel because
Yeah,
Yeah.
how about if we pay him bi-weekly, is that too much work for you? I mean, every 2 weeks, is that too much work for you?
No, I don't do the payroll, so. No.
When I say you, I mean the office.
like, I don't care, I don't do it.
Pretty soon,
I mean, that's a-
really not gonna care.
I mean, that's a compromise,
No, I think that, I mean, it's just a matter of internet into the computer, so it's.
I mean, he's all set up, right, you just,
Right, yeah, you just, yeah, it's no big deal.
I think that's a good compromise.
I do too, I mean, I don't know, that's, you know,
So the motion is
pay him every 2 weeks.
pay him every 2 weeks.
And then Terry, you can figure out
I'll
how that
second
works.
Okay.
Obviously, half the amount that we pay him.
Right.
Then, on the subject of mowing, we have done this before on the Anderson Cemetery Road where we had Jeff Hardsla come in and trim back the road and I think if we have him do that again and also go around that cemetery and perhaps other cemeteries in town. I mean, they just encroach, and it's really beyond our ability to take care of this as, you know, a volunteer effort.
I don't have a problem with that, Jeff's gonna mow the last week in June. Or
Yeah,
somewhere right in
somewhere
there.
around there.
But I would like him to meet with Penny, so he knows what he's doing, so he doesn't over mow or under mow, and then he's gonna come back and. Or at least talk to you about That,
Well,
I mean.
yeah, and he did that before.
Oh, he knows?
And no, just the Anderson.
Yeah.
And then we paid. I don't even think it was Wilson, but we paid him over 1 year to do Forest Hill. When we did fence work years ago, we paid to have the current mowers out, and it wasn't Wilson, it was before Wilson, to go back 3 to 5 feet around the cemetery, because they just, and people are talking at Ocean View, that half their lot is now, pucker brush, and it just, they closed, and I think.
I'm fine with it. I think Terry and Penny can just work it out.
Yeah.
All right, I don't think we'll have enough money left, so.
Like,
Part of it's ground or roads.
part of it's probably roads, yeah.
Talk to the road commissioners.
We can work it out.
Okay.
But I agree with you. I noticed the same thing particularly down at, Ocean View. It seemed like it was. And it's a lot cheaper to do it now than to go in when they're more substantial.
Yeah,
So we still need to vote on the mowing. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
3-0.
I'd also like to see it done, Guilford Butler too. That's another place that's just kind of encroaching, and especially with the ticks, because we can knock down and keep it back, that would be.
Well, that we can charge the building and maintenance. We have money for that. And there's gonna be a fairly substantial amount left over.
Yeah.
So work that out.
Okay, town meeting.
Hmm?
Town meeting, what is it? Displays.
Oh, Sandy's question. He's gone.
Oh,
Didn't she? She sent you an email.
Yeah, she wanted us to copy some handouts for her, just in the double side color. But in the past few months, John had mentioned not having any
Anything.
handouts at town meeting.
Right.
And I looked back at the minutes and I couldn't see that it was
a discussion.
a discussion.
We didn't vote on anything,
Not that I could show.
but she's asking, she's asking as the facilities committee, correct?
Yes,
Okay, not her personally.
yeah.
No, but I thought that there was a discussion about not having any informational things set up at the polls as far as like for Guilford Butler or for the new building or.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what.
We did have a discussion.
That's why, I
about
know we
it.
had a discussion, and I thought we voted on something, but Terry's.
I couldn't find it.
Couldn't find it.
Far to go back.
I don't remember how far back it was.
Was John,
And whether we voted or not, but
was John here in person?
Yeah,
yeah.
so it was after April.
When you came
Or
back in
before.
April, when you came back in April, it was like budget. And then just a couple in May, and I've looked through all of those and.
It may have been before.
I guess that my question was, did we mean, and do we mean town business? Like if we wanted to put something there.
right.
To show that we're restricting ourselves.
Yeah, where we need volunteers.
Or what about the ordinance or,
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously gonna make that available like that. And I couldn't remember how we came down on it. And maybe we didn't.
I don't,
down on it, but
I
but
think
I
we
think we-
discussed it, but we didn't.
I think we said that no outside groups could put anything
Right.
up at all, because we didn't wanna get into, well, this group can, but this group can't. But I couldn't remember how we came down on official town business. But I think Terry's looking for an answer.
Yeah.
Correct?
Well, do I print them for her and let her hand them out, or?
I think if you do that, you're gonna have to let people for Gulf Butler do the same thing.
See, I don't, because
I don't,
that's a.
I don't agree.
Town
I don't
committee
agree with that.
that is acting pursuant to a town vote. So I disagree with that. I'm not saying that I'm in favor of anything, but I think there is a difference. And I don't know that we want to bind ourselves in. I mean, if we were, say we were purchasing the property out there and we wanted to display a map at the select board, are we prohibiting ourselves from doing that? You know what I'm saying? But
Shouldn't we look at the flyer and see what it is before we say yes or no?
I don't know, Terry's the one
She
who sent
didn't
us an
send,
email.
all she sent me was the question. And
Right,
actually, she sent it to everybody.
yeah, Terry, you sent it, didn't you? You sent out an
Yeah, I sent
email
it out.
saying, what do you guys wanna do?
Yeah.
Or something like that. And nobody responded.
I don't recall seeing it.
But.
I
No, me
didn't
either.
see it.
I thought you did.
I thought it was.
I got it somehow.
When did it come out, do you know?
Oh, 3 weeks ago.
Oh, God.
It was from Terry. Or at least I thought it was. Yeah, I know it was.
Yeah, cause I can envision wanting to put up budget charts and stuff like that. Would we be precluded from doing that?
But it sounds like we didn't vote on anything.
I'm not seeing anything, but
But it's not gonna be in there. Boy, it's slow in here.
Stand by the window.
She sent it to me on 9/16. Wow.
And did you
5/16.
did you send it out? You sent it to us, right?
Oh, I think I did. I'm gonna look in my sent file here.
When was it?
5/16.
Oh, not as far back as I thought.
I sent it to John. I didn't send it to anyone else.
That's why.
I can't find it.
No, it says Jeff Northgrave.
No, it doesn't. It says John.
Mine says. No, actually, mine says it went to Jeff Northgrave from Sandy,
Oh,
and I was CC'd on it, as was Terry, Hannah, Sue, and,
Oh, so it's from Sandy, it's
Yeah.
not from,
yeah,
okay.
and then Terry sent out something.
I just sent it up to you, John, because I thought we'd had that conversation.
I
the
thought we
only
had
thing
it-
I see-
I thought we had it at the board.
The only thing I have from Sandy is a question or clarification about outside influence.
Yeah, and Sandy sent it to me and Hannah.
Well, it's right here.
I don't have anything else from Sandy.
Yeah, I know I didn't see it. But that doesn't mean I didn't get it.
Well, I don't delete any of it,
I don't either.
so I don't see it anywhere.
When was 5/16?
Yeah. That's when I got it from her.
And you probably would have sent it right
And I
out.
said, yeah, but I only sent it to John.
It's right here. It says Sandy Weisman to Jeff, me, Sue.
We're all on here.
And that's with her thing?
What date's that, John?
5/17.
Oh, I didn't get it.
Hmm.
I have one
Oh, wait a
for
minute.
5/8.
No, that's about Paul.
Yeah. That's the only one I have. from
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, whatever. So she
So what do we
posed a
want?
question to Terry about whether Terry could copy these for her, because she wanted to pass them on a town meeting, and then, so the underlying question you have is not so much can you copy them, but
Right, I thought that wasn't going to be allowed.
I think that if we're gonna restrict what's handed out at town meeting, and I think we should, that we should restrict. I just don't think it's the forum for doing
It's fine with me.
for
Yeah,
for giving out.
That's fine with me. I just wanted to give Terry an answer, because I think Terry was sort of looking for an answer.
And
So you got your answer.
yeah, and see, I'm even thinking about, I traditionally make charts for the budget, but again, I just don't think that's the appropriate. If you're gonna do that, you do an informational meeting ahead of time. That kind of stuff should be done at a separate point, separate time.
Fine by me.
We didn't vote on it though. So should we?
Probably.
I would entertain a motion.
So obviously we gotta make exceptions. We got a town report
Right,
we make available there, and the warrant, and the copy of the ordinances, proposed ordinances.
and request for people to be volunteers.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Okay. That makes sense.
Oh, woo.
Oh, you guys are
Any further discussion? I think that's pretty clean.
We'll think of something that we
Right.
wanted to pass out.
All those in favor?
And obviously, we're not talking about the voting power, but
Right,
Right.
that's not.
Well, and I think like even the ordinances is
That's all.
required to be there.
right, and that's part of what you're voting.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question about public informational meetings? Are the petitioners allowed to have that at the Guilford Butler Center?
Depends on how many people they get in there.
Okay,
Yeah, well, they would be, they'd be considered an outside group under a policy, right?
but they would be
Right,
townspeople.
right, but under that policy, they would meet the definition of an outside group,
Mhm.
so they'd have to get your permission, fill out that form.
And I wouldn't be allowed to speak at it.
You wouldn't be allowed to advocate, I would say, is probably more accurate.
What if we had it here?
Same answer.
Yeah, I guess the same answer, it's a town property, you're a town employee.
What about at town meeting?
Oh, yeah, you're free to speak at town meeting.
What's the difference?
But you can't have a public meeting or a public hearing or informational meeting at town meeting.
No, I agree. So what if we had it on the playground?
I think that's part of the property,
Public landing?
that's part of town property.
So I'm not allowed to speak except at town meeting,
You can speak.
You can speak, you just can't.
What about if,
but not on town
what if they
property.
didn't like it?
No, you can speak at town property. We didn't say you can't speak.
You did tell me I could not talk about it while I was in the
You
building.
can't talk about that. You can't talk about
Okay,
you can't,
all right.
you cannot petition or advocate for something that is contrary to the town,
On town property,
on town property.
but she could do it off town property,
Correct.
She could do it at
the church.
the church, or the Faneuil Hall, I mean.
In the hall.
Okay, letters to the editor.
Yeah.
As long as you don't identify yourself as the library or the community center.
Okay, wait a minute, so I'm not allowed to have an opinion as a town employee on town property or as library.
Cannot express that opinion.
I need this clarified because this is.
Well,
And talk to a lawyer, Penny,
Yeah,
because I'm not gonna try to
even on
do
the
this.
agenda tonight, and I feel like we're getting peppered with very technical questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I think we made it, I thought we gave you a pretty clear demarcation point, that if
Right.
it's on town property.
No, you said in the building, that was what I was told at the last meeting.
Well, I thought it said town property, but,
No.
but I mean, it's not even on the agenda. I would have prepared for this a little better if I'd known we're gonna talk about it.
That's a town employee, am I allowed to seek counsel from town?
Not by the town.
No, without our permission. She can't represent the town or represent you. She could represent you if someone sued you as a town employee. But she in effect would be representing the town.
Correct. And very specifically, when the interests of the personnel deviates from that of the town, then they no longer represent.
Yeah, or she would have to go towards the town.
Right. All right, float update.
Just real quick, the float's still not overboard, the whole thing has been redacted, the whole undercarriage, the small undercarriage that holds the. Ramp in place that had all split and rotted, and that's been replaced, it looks really good, there was one. Arm underneath that holds up those black float things that was kind of rotten, and I sort of patched that. And then we jacked it up to patch that arm, and I found a hole in one of those. So I'm trying to patch it. But it's right on a corner, it's not in a good place to patch. So, hopefully I can patch it and we can get it overboard. I know we usually try to get it overboard by Memorial Day, and I guess you've had a few questions put in Hannah, in town office.
Oh, I haven't heard.
Yeah, well, Hannah told me that a few people have asked about when's the float on office, so. It looks really good, but we gotta somehow patch that hole. And I'm gonna try to do that tomorrow, and then I gotta get Jimmy to put it overboard. So, I just thought you should know that. And those grants I want to talk about.
Yes, Greg, go ahead.
Just real simply, there's some money from the Department of Transportation that's available, quite a sum that's available to municipalities and counties, I think, for infrastructure protection from flooding and sea rise. And it's for both design and construction purposes. This, Terry just sent it to me, a couple of days ago, and I finally got to take a look at it. I got a call into the state person that's coordinating it. I can think of 3 projects that would be eligible, quickly looking down. One is by McClune's, one is by the Huey Ducks, where it eroded there by the guardrail, just up Village Road from his wharf. And he's actually spoken to me about that himself. He's at least at this point in favor of doing something there. And then the culvert on Waterman's Beach Road that is flooded over a couple of times. On this end.
This end,
Here, yeah, that's been topped over.
where the beaver is now,
Yeah, that's been topped over a couple of times.
right, he's moved.
So I'd like to, if I can find the time and can actually do it, I'd like your authorization to apply for those. You gotta apply separately for each one. But it does require a 5% match, which is not huge at all, if we can get 95% paid for it. I gotta dig into it more and talk to her and see if it's pretty complicated with a short time frame. And I think a lot of the projects that are being envisioned are probably much bigger projects, and that's why it's complicated. But I'm hoping when I finally talk to her, she'll say, oh, just fill out section B and C and get it in, and because these are really pretty piddly. But the other thing that I want to talk about and try to talk to DOT is, I've heard, this was at Island Bridge, I've heard different things about who's responsible for what down there from DOT. It's clear to me that DOT is responsible for the bridge itself. But I've heard varying opinions from different people at DOT about who's responsible for the approaches and where the town's responsibility starts and where DOT starts. So far, they have filled the 2 areas that have washed out. Actually, they've done 2 areas 3 times. that are outside the concrete abutments. But I'm just wondering if someone's gonna say, oh, we're not responsible for that. And at DOT, it's gonna dawn on someone. So I'd like to talk to them about that, because I think that potentially needs some beefing up. as
Oh,
well.
definitely.
And in some ways, I hate to open Pandora's box, but on the other hand, they didn't do much there. They just poured a few rocks down in there, and I think it's gonna keep happening.
Well, because they're using really small rocks.
Yeah.
And the approach, if you're coming off the island on the right, there's not much there anymore.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
They just backed it, they took the section of the guardrail out, we can see where they did that, backed a few dumped some rock in there. Which was great. I'm glad they did it, because, when I first called them, I thought they were gonna, and they patched them. They patched it. I thought they were gonna say, oh, that's the town's responsibility, My gut is that they're gonna settle on, if it's outside the concrete abutments, then that's the town's responsibility. Inside that is theirs, but I'd like to sort that through with her, because if that is indeed what the case is, maybe we can at least get some planning money to beef that up over the long term.
Yep.
So I just wanna get your permission, so to speak, or at least find out, make sure you weren't in opposition to me pursuing that. If I get to it.
You wanna make a motion? We've got a motion.
I make a motion that we allow John to explore the possibility of grants for lagoons or Hudons, Warren's Beach culvert, and possibly the bridge approaches. Is that what you were looking for?
There you go. Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Three.
Oh, right, well,
You can vote, yeah, there's no money.
no,
Okay. I think certify draft land use ordinance.
We're gonna do close, the request to close early on.
Oh, okay, you're right.
so moved.
So that's, okay, so that's 4:30 on June 18th. 1 PM on June 27th.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Right. Now. Certify the draft land use ordinance. Do we just need to sign it, or do we need to vote on it?
I think sign it, but John is first.
I think we need to vote on it, certify it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it needs to say certified, doesn't it say certified under our hands, this? I make a motion, we vote to certify the draft land use ordinance.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
Actually, I'm gonna change that. Are we certifying a draft ordinance or amendments to it?
This is, well, what we're signing here is amendments to the town of South Thompson land use ordinance.
Right. It's amendments to the ordinance.
And that's what we're certifying to propose then.
That's what this is.
2024 amendments to the town of South Thomaston shoreline land use ordinance. Amendments to the town.
But is that the entire ordinance there?
That's what we have to certify, yeah.
Okay, so I'll vote to certify the proposed amended
Ordinance, land use ordinance.
land use ordinance.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
I move to certify the proposed amended shoreline zoning ordinance.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Do we have to vote on the ATV?
Yeah.
Okay,
I propose that we certify the proposed ATV ordinance.
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor? Monthly reports. I haven't looked at that.
I haven't either. See, how that goes.
Stabilization grant package that they got that fixed for you?
Yes.
Have we sorted out exactly what we're gonna do with that money we did?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I got. Somebody sent me something to sign.
Yes, I emailed you back.
Oh, did
I
you?
think it's the contract between the state and the town for the
Curtis?
septic system on Westbrook Street. I emailed Zoe to ask her, last time they sent it to me to send to John. But it looks like they bypassed me to send it.
Yeah, they did it with one of those signature,
Yeah,
and so I can't open it to read it, because if I open it, that's signing.
right.
And so I wanted to figure out what it was I was signing before I opened it, but.
I think that's what it is. I emailed Zoe, I haven't heard back.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's.
So this is the one we're trying desperately to get fixed as soon as possible, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go ahead and open it then.
And
It's strange.
look at
I
it,
know.
signing it.
And it doesn't have a clear text name for it. It
Yeah.
has a bunch of numbers,
Yeah.
big, long.
Yeah, it's weird.
And it's weird.
And even who it's from.
I asked for this from Zoe right at the beginning. And she said, oh, they're working on getting them out.
So it's a problem.
Sure, do you know these two that were not anything?
You can just put them in the sign book. So I'm gonna go get you one to sign right now.
Oh, I thought the third,
Dawn wanted-
oh, you're switching, okay.
So.
So these,
And it's on the page of the signature, so we can.
right, so these aren't any good. But
We
these are,
still have a couple of donations we need to accept too.
Oh, I didn't see those.
no, there were.
And they're in
Oh,
the
okay,
background.
all right, okay. All right, so donation. $500 from Ruth Franklin for the ambulance.
I move that we accept, well, I guess I gotta wait for Terry.
Reread them, make sure when I cut and paste it and
Yes.
pop something.
I move we accept $500 donation from Ruth Franklin for the ambulance service and thank her for, send her a note thanking her for her generous donation.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I move we accept $100 donation from Alicia Shields for the ambulance and send her a note thanking her for her generous donation.
Sorry, I'll second that, I was
All those in
reading.
favor?
Aye.
All those in favor, 3-0.
I'll just put these all together.
And Sue, the ones that are no good. The ones that are no good, put it at the top. That way we know for sure.
Yeah, Dave.
You want it on every page?
No, just on the, I mean, well, yeah,
Or on
'cause
the
they're all, yeah, 'cause they're all rules, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate to say, it, I have a question though. Okay. This says for submission to the June 18th town meeting.
I probably just put the last
Yeah.
one said.
Yeah, Well, I was thinking the town meeting actually starts on the 11th,
Oh,
but
yes.
I think,
So did we resolve who's moderating?
Yes, how do we do that on?
Sandy McMahon will be elected moderator on the 11th here, and she will assign Jan as her deputy for the 18th.
Oh,
Because he couldn't be here for the 11th to be chosen.
okay.
But there's a form there's always a form that he can appoint him as her deputy and he'll be all good to go. He picked up the moderator manual, so. I think we're good that way.
so I moderated the Owl's Head special town meeting regarding the town manager vote. Very interesting discussion.
Yes, so did
They voted it down.
Yeah, I figured they would.
It was closer than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
Why do you think they voted it down?
I thought these were X.
They are. She just wanted them with it. You don't have to
Just
go.
put them in the
in,
folder,
just with it.
yeah.
Just put them on the shoulder and shut up, John. That's, I hear that all the time.
Did it sound like that's what I was saying?
No, I won't say it on TV. Do that.
I was curious how that went because, 3 different people from the town came in and talked to me about it.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to know what South Thomaston had to say. I'm talking about select board member and head of the planning board. That's somebody else. Ordinance review committee.
There's a lot of good discussion. I mean,
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it was, oh, we're a small town, and do we really need to take this step maybe someday? Sort of the typical,
Yeah.
and I think that argument carried the day. But they did get into, you know, how it's difficult when you got a board, you can't make decisions as a board and, you know, and decisions these days need to be made quickly and, you know, it used to be you got a letter, now you get an email and please respond by tomorrow. It used to be the letter would take a week to get there. So there was some of that, it was an interesting discussion, so. But
Did they also do, at the same meeting, did they,
no, just that,
shoreline, it wasn't shoreline.
just that.
So was it the board that was proposing it?
No, they had this task force that was set up, Dave Matthews. And,
We're getting ready to.
I'm leaving.
Without objection, we are.
items for next agenda?
No, when they haven't scheduled any future meetings.
Come on, it's 8:30.
And I gotta bring my dog to the bed at 7:30.
I don't read a work at 6:30.
Okay, we have a
Well, I
meeting.
gotta go before 7:30. We do have a meeting.
We got a meeting on the 5th.
Are we gonna, that was if
Yeah,
we
we
had
have-
something for the town meeting.
Yeah.
Well, but why don't we just keep it, and then if we don't need it, cancel it, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to be on the agenda to talk about the preparation for a town meeting of the director of the library.
Of the what?
As director of the library, I'd like to talk about my preparation for town meeting because I wasn't on tonight's agenda. I still don't know what I need to do if a reporter calls me.
Good question.
Yeah.
So we have a.
Well, I think town meeting's clear. You can say anything you want.
Okay,
Don't you? Agree with that, Jeff?
Yeah.
as director, I can speak.
You can,
You can't say, I'm the director of, but you can speak. The people who are speaking there, even the select board, when they're speaking, are speaking as town residents.
yeah, technically, we're not even in a meeting there, even
Correct.
though there's 3 of us.
So as long as you don't say, I am the librarian or the director of the community center, you can say whatever you
Well,
want.
you can say that, but you can't advocate or against.
Correct.
You could say, if someone says, how much money did you spend last year on heat?
Right.
You could say, as the director of the library, I can answer that question, we spent $2,000, something like that.
Okay, and what about a reporter?
A reporter, I mean, I think you're free to speak if you're not on town property.
Right.
But again, I don't think you can speak, you should, I personally would make it clear that I'm not speaking for the town. I'm speaking for myself personally. That's what I would do.
I guess I don't understand. I mean, if they contact me as director of the community center.
Right, and that's why I think you're gonna say, I'm not speaking for the town, I'm speaking
For myself.
for myself, it's personal. I mean, I do that all the time,
So do
when I
I.
answer emails, I say, I'm not speaking for the board, I'm speaking for myself personal, so. That's my,
So
Yeah, but that's a kind of a board.
yeah, I know.
yeah, but it's just so like you're saying that this is the way I feel.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the way that the town feels.
And I do that with vets all the time. All the time.
Isn't that a very thin line?
Yeah, it is,
It's a very
it's
thin
tough,
line.
it's tough, that's why I tried to answer the questions.
Right.
Sometimes it's a matter of using your best judgment and.
Right.
Yeah, the extremes I think are easy. It's when it gets in the middle.
Well, I feel like it, you know. It's like being told I can't be part of a petition or whatnot, and then,
Well, you can sign the petition. We didn't say you couldn't sign it.
She couldn't circulate it.
Yeah.
Well, no, she circulated it, but no.
I could not.
When you were holding yourself out as a town employee.
Not in the building.
And we said, maybe we said building, probably property would have been a better word.
I think you did say building.
Yeah, well,
It was very specifically building.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it was also something we weren't prepared, ready to discuss either, I mean, so, but, I think you just gotta use your best judgment and say, I'm a town employee, I shouldn't be advocating why I'm being a town employee, I shouldn't be advocating one way or another. That's what I think, I mean, I trust your judgment personally.
Well, my judgment is to say my experience in the building for the past 2 years has told me that what they have planned is not going to be suitable for a volunteer.
I don't disagree with you, but if nobody who feels that way sits in their committee and participates, then it will never be a part
I
of it.
didn't sit on that committee, I was not allowed to go.
But by saying that, you're advocating.
Yeah, you gave up. You gave up on the building, is what you did.
Well, because I asked for certain things and I was told, thank you very much, and then they went on to do their own thing. I feel very importantly, I feel strongly about fire suppression and life safety systems being a very important part of the current building, because I know that the majority of our users are of an advanced age and limited mobility. I feel that
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's not
the
included
current
in that
building, they specifically told me they were limiting the size so they would not have to include life safety
Once
and
again,
fire
we
suppression.
have not been brought into this. Nothing's been proposed. All they're doing is planning.
This is what I'm telling you, because I have been part of that. I have been watching all the meetings.
But have you participated in it?
I did, Jeff.
All right.
But that's a different question than what you can say and where and why.
Right.
And you know, I truly believe what they're designing is going to require a full-time custodian to move walls and take out all these tables and put in all the tables.
I'll say it again, tell them.
I did.
Okay.
But those are minor details in the scheme of things.
Well, I mean, to say there's no impact to the tax dollar, but I think you would have to pay a full-time employee to be there doing these things.
If we didn't have you, we'd be paying a full-time employee anyway. To do what the program we're doing, I mean. We got to pay you immensely, and we bring that up every budget year, and you say, no, that's fine, but I mean, how many hours a week are you there? I see you guys there all the time.
Well,
Well, not all the time.
you know, am I there as a director? Am I there as a volunteer? Am I there as a participant?
I think to be on the safe side, if you're there, you're an employee, because people come to you, I've seen it, I'll be talking to you.
Well,
people-
they come to me
Right.
elsewhere.
So they are seeing you as an employee, as the director of the center. And I agree, I think it's a tough call when it's right in the middle, but. Anyways, I really.
So we're meeting with the,
Huh? So I was hoping we don't have this one.
I don't think.
Well, Penny seems to think we need that. She wants to have a meeting. Do you have anything else?
On the fifth, no?
Yeah, I thought it was just in case there was something we needed to decide before town meeting, but I prefer not meeting on it.
I would too, but if Penny feels she.
Well, I feel like now I have to go consult with an attorney about things and, also the petitioners will come to me and ask what they can do at town meeting.
Well, I think you simply need to say, I can't speak to that here. Call me at home. I mean, that's an easy one.
I know, but I don't know what to tell them at home.
I can tell you what they can do at town meeting, vote. That's it. It's an easy one.
If both measures pass.
Well, we'll have to.
Then we'll
they'll
have to figure
cross
something
that
out.
bridge when they come to it.
But they shouldn't. They have, I've seen that before, but it's rare.
Yeah, because even if they don't both pass, if the town one passes, we're gonna have to do something to figure out what our direction.
What do you mean the town one?
The one that,
Petition.
the petition one. Because I don't know what it means.
I don't know, but
And
that's.
Well, I think that that's where the new building could be built elsewhere.
It doesn't say building somewhere else.
It says change course, but anyways, we're revisiting the same issue.
Well,
So we have the 25th of June and nothing.
Well,
yet.
no, we still have the fifth on it in case something happens,
Okay.
and then the 20th.
right.
Right, but the fifth may not happen.
For a town meeting and.
And the 27th.
Oh, I have it clear. Okay.
Can we adjourn?
Yes. Without objection.
Man, I need a big